welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. It's been a pretty good week this week, and to continue this awesome loyal themed week, I guess, because we are back in the USL, we are on top of the group. We're going to go ahead and have a guest that works for the SD Loyal, Mr. Ricardo Campos. I put Ocampo. I don't know why I keep trying to call you Ocampo, but Ricardo Campos, who is the vice president of marketing, operations and fan interactions, right? Correct. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. And I get Ocampo all the time. I have no idea why, but it happens. Doesn't bother me.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's it. I appreciate you guys inviting me in, and thank you. Thank you again for everything you guys are doing.
It's honestly been fun starting this journey 4 months ago, and it's really great to see that the club that is starting kind of with us at the same time, we kind of are coming together at the same time, has been having so much success, not just on the field, but off the field. It's a big congratulations to you and everybody at the office. We like to be able to give both sides of the story, because there's not just the fan side that we interact more with, but it's important for you guys to also interact directly with the fan base, in which case this is, how we're able to have you. Can you tell us and take us into how, the preparation for everything, pandemic happened, and it's obviously a much different story working for the club, and, getting all these things to come together for the restart of the season. How did that all come together, when you found out, okay, we are restarting, and what do we do now?
Yeah, so funny comment on, telling sides of a story. I learned from one of my bosses, and while I was at Red Bull, that there's three versions to each story. There's your side, my side, and there's the truth. And so it's just a fun little factor to always keep in mind, is we're always biased by our experiences and how things are, right? And that's natural. So go into that as to how this has been and the processes that we've gone through. I think there are very few of us that prepare for this kind of thing in a proper way, right? Having the experience to go through, as you said, we started a few months ago. We had the ramp up for this club that happened very fast. But at the same time, it was very exciting, very challenging. But we knew it was going to be, and we thought the market was ready, right? The community here is ready, and it's been missing that outdoor soccer experience. So we knew there was a success there. Obviously, we feel like that first game was, a tremendous success for us as a club. We didn't get the 3 points, but we did get, a sold out experience. We feel like the overall experience in the stadium was amazing. And then we went to Tacoma and had a pretty good away game, right? Except that it was with no fans there for them too. But we got the 3 points, and then this whole thing happened. At first, it was, I think we're all like this, right? Where we thought, oh, this is going to be a couple of weeks. And then it obviously lived for much longer. And then it became, let's start preparing. And I, as an operations person, like to prepare. So it's been a positive, not even a positive, but it's been a good process of developing different plans, right? Developing plans for returning to get our staff safely back into the office so that we can work. We, I think, unlike many clubs, took the advantage during that time off to, instead of kind of sit around and do nothing, on planning for 2021 and creating different concepts and talking through the things that we can do better, things that we can improve, and in every area of the business, in ticket sales and marketing and operations. So it was kind of weirdly beneficial for us in a way to have that opportunity. And then, as things got more real of when we're going to return, it's decided to this plan of return to play, right? With working with the USL and we had access to the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, return to play protocols. And so using all of those and seeing what were best practices to create a safe plan to return to play. We feel like everything has been great from as much as it could be, right? There's a number of things that are out of our control, but what we've been able to control has been very good. Without our partners, we wouldn't be in the same place, right? Rady has been an incredible partner for us to help us design these protocols, make sure they're safe, make sure they're providing the safety not only for us but also for the people that we're partners with, right? Because we're training at Chula Vista, we're going to play at USD, and we owe to those partners to be safe in their environment as well. So I don't know if that answers your question. That's really long, but
That's perfect.
it's been a long process of just designing protocols from day to day to game day experience to training to just contact and being ready for if somebody does test positive.
No, definitely, and it's important, and it's good to have those, what if scenarios and be prepared for everything pretty much, and put out fires before they start, in a sense.
Right.
I mean, obviously, here San Diego, where it's a really diverse city, and you got different cultures from different communities. You got people from Poway, Chula Vista, like Ocean Beach, everything.
Hasta Tijuana, I hear.
Even TJ fans,
Right.
So did the club see the diversity as a challenge, an opportunity, or as both?
A tremendous opportunity. And I'll say that as we talk about diversity, I don't know who put the Brazilian scarf in the back there, but as a Brazilian, I do
It's me.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely. And we're gonna get obrigado.
I disappointed on the Manchester United part, but you can't be perfect.
Again, that's it. That's all. You and me, bro. We're good. We're connecting. I love it.
Well, trust me. What is that? Is that a Chelsea? Yeah, I'm disappointed in that too. So, but from just messing with you guys. But the club from the beginning. So I'm sure you guys saw our process, right? Is when we started, the very beginning of this was listening session after listening session to understand what did this community want, and how could we find a brand, an overall theme, right? Because it's not just a crest, right? It's beyond a crest. It's who you are. How would that really bring this community together? And the diversity here is amazing, right? But it's also physically very big, and to a certain extent kind of separated. And you have all these different areas, to your point, very different cities that feel very unique in their own way, but under an overarching theme that, in an easy way to say, it's 70 and sunny, it's the weather, but it's way beyond that, right? Like, we love the weather, we obviously do, and we appreciate what we have here, but it's way beyond that. I think it's that kind of confidence, that subtle confidence that exists in San Diego over places that need to kind of boast how great they are, right? San Diego is comfortable and confident that we're one of the best places in the world to live in and work in, but we don't have to show it off. And that comes from that diversity as well, because we do have a melting pot, but San Diego is not exactly like everybody refers to New York as a melting pot, but San Diego has just as big of a mix of cultures here. And so, to answer your question, we see it as a positive. We see it as a positive because we think of ourselves as a place for all this diversity to come together and represent San Diego. Because there's, as you guys know, this different cultures kind of celebrate soccer and support soccer in different ways. And I think this is our theme, our concept for the club, is a way for us to bring this community together, celebrate San Diego, and celebrate this diversity and what these different cultures do within San Diego to make it stand out. Does that make sense?
No, definitely. And of course, you are somebody with perspective with that. Like I said, you did work at New York Red Bulls for the MLS, and then even for, I believe, 1904 for a bit.
I did. I helped them start up in the very beginning.
So, I mean, clearly you see something here in San Diego that's worth putting as much effort as you have been putting in for you personally. So what is your reaction when you see so many different groups coming together? Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Chavos del Loyal guys. And then, you have obviously the locals and all the amazing people that are there. We actually had the chance to sit in on our first video conference call. I was waiting for Loyal number 619, but I just said, you know what, let's go with it and join in. But how does the club perceive this? Because again, we're trying to get the perception of how you guys see us in a sense. And obviously, we mean a lot to the club itself, but for as far those factions and groups that are coming together, is that something that the club wants to uphold and keep going? or is it more like, all right, well, as long as everybody's fine and cheering for the same thing, we're okay?
No, I think that's the core of the club, right? It's celebrating these different groups coming together under one overarching theme, right? It's we're all going to have different ways to celebrate and to support the club, but I think the most important part is that we work together towards something. And so you know, the local, so responsible for the supporters group relationship as well as part of my role. And obviously we started with the locals. They did a ton of work to get to where they are, which is awesome. But I think part of the conversations from the beginning was you are going to have other groups that are going to come in and try to, kind of get what you're doing and twist it into their own version of it. And that's, I think, something that the locals leadership has embraced. And I think we welcome other groups that want to come in, obviously. And I'll say this, not as a dig at other clubs, but being in an experience with Red Bull where you had, and even seeing Vegas where they have supporters group that don't really get along, right? To me, it's very important that our supporters group get along, even though we have different ways of supporting it. How does that work, and how does that kind of how do we all play together? That's part of the beauty of figuring this out. But as long as we're open-minded and we're willing to work with each other, I don't see that ever being a challenge. I see it as a celebration of San Diego and bringing those cultures together under one theme again, and supporting our club. Because I mean, and that's what I say, it's the core of the club. One of the first things that when I met with Warren that kind of really struck with me of like, this guy's different and this is really going to work, was this club is nothing without its community. Like, it doesn't exist. The community owns the club, right? He said to me, and we joke around sometimes on, Warren Smith is going to leave one day, is going to retire, is going to do something else, right? Landon is going to leave. We're all going to leave at some point, right? Might be 30 years from now, 40 years from now, might be 2 years from now. We don't know what the future holds, but we want to do it so right that the next guy who steps into anybody's shoes here is going to go, I'm just trying not to F this up. Just keep going. You know what I mean? That's the goal of what we're trying to do, is like, just deliver something that the community doesn't want to change because it's so great and it celebrates it so well.
Yeah, and we definitely give kudos where kudos are deserved. And I think the club has been doing a great job over this time, staying involved with that community and upholding those things, because, you can say that, and referring to Warren, we've also spoken to him a couple of times on camera and off camera, and same dude on and off camera, where if you have a microphone in front of him, and what he does say is exactly that. The community is the backbone of this club, and it seems like you guys are not just talking the talk, you guys are walking the walk. That Rady Children's Hospital thing resonates with me. I broke my femur when I was 3, and I was in a cast all the way from my ankles to my mid section, and they took care of me, and I have a soft spot for that. But even just having videos and inviting the community to participate in online trainings with the club itself is something important that you guys have been doing. So it's important to give credit where credit's due. So again, congratulations to you guys. And it's difficult too, just to come back and restart an operation in such a different world that we live in now.
Yeah. So
right.
I would say, like, Esli Loyal, like, it's really popular in the northern part of San Diego, and I'm from the southern part of San Diego, like southwest part. Tony is too, and I've asked friends like, "Hey, what do you guys think of Ezilo?" And they're like, "I don't really know about the team." So, what is something that the team is trying to do, or maybe is planning to do, to reach out to that southern part of San Diego, which it's a lot of Latino-based culture that is mainly focusing on cholos or something else. So, what is something that the team could try to do to reach that fan base?
So I think the club is always going to try to keep improving, right? So there's always going to be things that we need to change and we need to keep improving. And we appreciate the kudos, but it's very important that the community itself also calls us out when we need to do better, right? And sometimes it's little improvements here and there that we need to do. And I think that's part of it, is improving our connection with the southern part of San Diego. And I think there's a few different challenges and I think opportunities with that as well. Something that I saw with Red Bull was we put the stadium in Newark in New Jersey, right? And Newark is the biggest Brazilian Portuguese population, I think, in the country. However, if you went to any games, not a single Brazilian or Portuguese went to the games, unless we had like Santos over or like a Portuguese or Brazilian team come in to play Red Bull. Part of that is because there is a challenge there of kind of authenticity, right? Of if you're a lot of the group that we're talking about believes that Cholos or Liga MX is better or is a different, there's a different connection there. And so our biggest challenge is making sure that they have the opportunity to come to our game, because then I think we believe they'll see that this is as authentic as their experience is over there. Because just being transparent, right? Like this might be not exactly what people want to hear, but at the same time, that's the reality. Is as Latinos, we're a little snobbish about like our soccer, right? Like I still hold my São Paulo as like my club, and I think São Paulo, like I think the Brazilian league is top 5 in the world, right? Like probably not, but I'm snobbish about that, and that I think it is. And I think there's a factor of that, right? And so that we're kind of closed into what we want to watch. And yeah, it's a San Diego team, but those are a bunch of gringos. I don't know if they know how to play soccer. Like that's a reality. That's a challenge. I have it with my friends of like my family of, you know, is that real soccer? Is it, what is it? What does it contain, right? How does it work? And so giving us a chance, how do we get them to give us a chance is we have to expose ourselves to them. So it's finding that connection first so that they can give us a chance. One of the things we were going to do is we were going to have all our games broadcasted in Spanish. Unfortunately, with everything that happened in COVID, there's some extra costs and everything else. So that's unfortunately not happening. Good thing for us is we got our first game and the game this week and are both going to be on ESPN Deportes. So those are positive things. But our initial was going to have all our matches on CW in English and also a Spanish partner. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. So that's one of the ways we're doing it. The other way is obviously we're training in Chula Vista. So we want to be there. And there are other things that I wish Jesse was on for us to be able to kind of talk a little bit more on initiatives that we want to be more present. And so that is sometimes on Twitter, just, you know, speaking in Spanish, videos that are going to come out in Spanish. Well, there's a lot of things that now that we've gone back to work, it just takes time, as you guys know, to produce videos and create content, things like that are going to be a little bit more Hispanic focused or Latin focused. Does that make sense? Like there's no easy solution. It's a progress over time. But with everything we can do better.
And definitely. And you know, just to that, Ricardo, mi nombre es Tony Sánchez y pues yo hablo español muy bien y el día que gustes, aquí estamos, two balls in a mic, dispuestos a hacerlo por gratis or just half of what you guys are, you know, we'll take a year or two. But yeah, I mean, it's great that you guys are doing that and it's intentional. And that's what we saw, you know, when we started this, yeah, sure, World Cup, press passes, this and that and everything. But we got caught up in how good this movement is, not just specifically with Loyal, but with Bridge Barcata, with the locals themselves, with, you know, with the Soccers, 1904. There's something happening here in this region. And, you know, I think it's time for us. And it's good, you know, for us to admit that we are kind of, you know, snobbish, you know, Liga MX, we could say the Brazilian league. We hold on to that because of the nostalgia and all these players. Right. But at the end of the day, we see that there is that genuine just sentiment of, yes, we want to bring everybody together that we see. And we're trying our best to like, hey guys, like, look, these guys are Loyal is trying and they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. And if they're not, we'll let them know they're open, like they're available. And so that's something that I think it's important to you know, amplify, as a Fair Weather podcast, Alan would say, to amplify those voices and that sentiment.
And I think that game with Cholos would have helped with that a lot too.
Right.
Sadly, it didn't happen, but that would have probably helped in bringing that exposure to the Latino culture.
Right. And that game will happen. It's unfortunately with changes in schedule and everything that happened, it didn't happen now, but it will happen. They have been incredibly supportive of us and our project, and we're obviously incredibly supportive of them. And we just feel like the more there is, the more we can grow together. So those games will happen, and we'll have consistent games every year with them to celebrate the you know, here and there, and just creating a local celebration of soccer within both of the communities. Which really, when we talked about, as I was saying, when we did our listening sessions at the beginning of this process, it's San Diego includes Tijuana, right? Like it's one big community that is kind of mixed, even though there's unfortunately kind of a border in between. But it is one big group because so many people live here, work there, type thing, and it's a shared space in many ways.
And I think those listening sessions were something that I don't think the community down here really has ever heard of, because I remember when Cholo started. I started, that was still when I played back then. But it was all just in-house. Everybody took care of it. There wasn't that much community outreach. Not that I was aware of so openly. And so the people that came out are usually those people who, like we say, might be a little bit north of the 8 or not necessarily the South Bay. But I think now, with things happening as well as they are, it's picking up steam, and everybody's paying attention to them. And I think even on a national basis, Loyal is going to be something that's going to be known and is starting to be known.
Right. We did do a couple of listening sessions, partnering with Chula Vista FC and working with them on getting some people. I think we did 2 within there, and the feedback was amazing, and we try to incorporate that into our process.
So I think Chiva and I are actually already sold on this. But for those who may not, let's just pretend I'm not. Can you give us a short, to the point, nice and sweet selling point on what you think about the new proposed Midway Sports Arena area stadium venue thing that's happening? How do you feel about that? And, what's something that we should be looking forward to if that does happen?
I think, I as I said earlier, there's multiple sides to a story. There's always at least 2 and then the truth, right? And I think the most important thing that I'll reiterate is I have my opinion on it. I've read through it. I think the thing that we're asking for people is we're not going to try to push you one way or the other. Take the 10, 15 minutes, go read it, choose it for yourself. That's literally what we just want people to do. We think obviously we prefer more parks, sports, less traffic, easy points to hit at for us in the way that we believe it's a better use for the project, right? Like there's a guaranteed improvement in the arena. There's obviously a soccer stadium for us. There are more parks, there's less traffic, but I don't want that to be the focus of that. I want go in, read it for yourself and make your own decision. The information is all there. It's transparent from both sides. The information is there. So it's important that people have that power. I think especially nowadays, things can be, everybody's being sold something every time you like open your phone, right? Yeah. So like, I'm not a sales guy. And so just go and read it. That's the only thing we ask, is go and read it and take the information for yourself and make your own decision. If you think is best, whatever project you think is best for the community. And that's my short pitch, if that makes sense.
I'm sold.
So obviously, you've been mentioning New York Red Bull. So I did want to ask, like, what is the biggest difference between working for an MLS team to a USL team?
So there's a lot of differences. Working for Red Bull at the time that I started. So I started in 2008 or 7. I don't know, but it was a while back. And Red Bull was in a point that they were kind of throwing money in to like really investing in that club, right? Is we built within 2008 and 2015, when I left, we built a $350 million stadium that was all privately built. We built a training facility. We bought, Thierry Henry. We brought obviously Tim Cahill, Rafa Marquez. So the investment was there, right? And so biggest difference really was at that point the amount of kind of funds that you have, and it's almost a problem because there's a little less accountability for that when you have too much of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
On here it is, spend away, and that, obviously I was in a different role, right? I started as a team admin, and then luckily I was in the right place at the right time to grow and get a little bit more responsibility over time. But there was a lot of flexibility with, we want to do this. Obviously it's not like, hey, here's free cash, go spend it. It was, hey, we want to do this. This is why I want to do it. Can I get the money to do it? And yes, so much that originally we weren't going to do a Red Bull 2 team. And I believe it was in November 2014 of 2013. No, it was 2014 that we got our budget approval, and they said, hey, here's $1 million, go build the Red Bull 2 team. Until then we had been working with another USL team to be just a partner. And so it's like, hey, here's the money, now build a team. You're starting to play in March.
Wow.
Oh shit. So it's just like, it's wonderful, right? It's an amazing experience. But at the same time, I remember working with John Wozniak at the time, and we built a team that I think 2015, they won the league. So it's, the biggest difference is kind of having that ability. I think USL, it's a little bit more community focused, where, in USL, in MLS, you're kind of up here and you think, if I just do it, everybody will come, versus here, it's like, we're working together to build something that makes sense. And when I left Red Bull, I came here, I had my own business type thing, and you just have to value every dollar a lot more. And that to me was what made a big difference here. And you kind of appreciate it more too, right? There's more of a connection. There's more of a connection within the club, versus there it's a little bit. Both are wonderful. I think both are really developing the game in this country. But I think that kind of access to funds was a little different. But I also think at Red Bull at that time was very different than what Red Bull is today. And it's very different from club to club within MLS. And it's different from club to club within USL. Which is normal, right? In every league, you have big spenders, low spenders, and medium spenders in all parts of the club, if that makes sense.
And yeah, so that's so much, to do with the advertising and stuff. But it's good that something like USL is so grassroots, and in it, I think it resonates a little more, I feel.
Yeah. So, what would be your favorite part of working with SV Loyal?
Like ever, like
ever,
like a memory or.
Memory, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, like a memory or like a continuous experience?
Or both.
Yeah, whichever you want.
Okay, so a memory for me, without a doubt, and we had some internal discussions and things like that on special moments in your life. And for me, it was March 7th. It was a culmination of a number of years of when I moved back here, I kind of tried to take a break from the game a little bit, but then kind of got involved in NPSL, and then 1904, and then Soccer City. And that March 7th culminated in a lot of work previous, and then a lot of work leading up to that first game. The league certainly put a little bit of pressure on us. On your first game, you're going to be on ESPN National, right? So it's like, thanks, but we don't even get a little bit of a tryout, right? It was like, you're on fire. So it was that kickoff, and that end of the day, I think we stayed at the stadium until like 3 a.m. tearing things down. And when I got in my car at the end of that day, it was a pretty special moment of like, we did it. We got it. Not knowing, looking forward to, hey, we have another game next week.
Yeah.
Not knowing what was going to happen. But that moment was pretty special. And then on an everyday basis, it really is how we're all involved in every part of the club, right? Everybody has their departments and things like that. But because the club is smaller, because the club is more community-based, we all have influence in the little things, right? Like, it's not like, oh, operations is mine and I don't care. I'm not going to listen to anyone else. We'll just do our thing. We have meetings after the games and talk about, how can we make that better? We'll have great relationship with our sales guys, with marketing, on how we can always be improving. And I think learning and being part of that makes us better. Nobody's closed off and thinking that they know everything and they're doing everything right. Everybody is always welcoming to new ideas and new challenges, and what they're listening from the community and what they're seeing out there to help improve.
That's great. I did see yesterday, though, that you were on the field at Torero Stadium on your Instagram story. What preparations are actually going down? We talked about that March 7th. That was a completely different preparation for a home game
Right.
that's going to happen for this Sunday against LA Galaxy Dos. So what kind of preparations have been going on? The field looks amazing, beautiful. Could you tell us what should be expected at the stadium on Sunday?
So field looks great. Props to USD staff on obviously keeping that field in great conditions for us to return to back to play now. And I mean, the setup is a little different, right? Because a big part of the experience, when we talk about the experience on game day, it's not just like when you arrive at the gate, right? It's the traffic in. It's actually when you buy your ticket. It's actually when you first hear of the team. So it's the whole experience to get there. So, but on a game day experience, it's half of the work, probably even less, from a setup perspective of outside of the venue. Because there's so many traffic control, advertisement, or directions, buses to get people in, and parking, food, security. There's so many different factors that in this case won't happen. Now, there's a lot of other work that needs to happen to make sure that there's some safety factors in there for the return to play protocols. We start the build out tomorrow for the game on Sunday. So tomorrow we're going to spend the whole day there testing everything, setting up signage, and making sure that we're ready for the game on Sunday. So we'll do it tomorrow. We'll do some on Friday, a little bit on Saturday, and then all of the on-field, on-the-grass items will go in on Sunday because we don't want to damage the field and leave things on for a few days. But most of the items now are just what's visible on broadcast because, there's no point of me putting a bunch of parking signs since we don't have people coming in.
Yeah, and I think even with the restart being away, that kind of helps everybody kind of prepare for what's going to happen this upcoming week. It was
right.
A dry run for everybody.
Right.
Fans, what it's going to look like to appreciate a game from home. And we did a Zoom meeting, and I think you showed up for a bit. Thank you for coming by. And I think it's it's a different world that we live in, and I think that's a testament to how well Loyal has and the locals have worked together and got that word out to where I think overall, the fans who were going to watch the game or would watch the game away or anything, they were there. And even people that were curious because there's no other sports might have even tuned in to see what's this Loyal team all about that I keep hearing. We might even give the sport a chance.
Yeah,
no, it's very true.
Yeah, so I was just curious to ask, what was your reaction to the win this past Saturday?
Reaction. It was close. So it was like a stressful game to watch. Luckily I watched it with Darren, Jordan, and actually Pete from our office at Stone after we did the Facebook Live, the unnamed pregame, I think that's what we're calling it. So it was a stressful game. I think, in every game, everybody's going to talk about, video review and goals that may be missed. There's mistakes in every game that could change the game. And so I think that part of it, I kind of put it aside a little bit. I think it was good to see the guys back on. It was really difficult conditions, right? When you're playing 98 degrees and you're wearing all black kits, it's just hot and it wears you out. And then on top of that, you haven't played in 4 months. So I think considering conditions and everything else, I think we did expect it really well. Had to watch the second half later, unfortunately, just because we had that little broadcast issue. But I thought the team played well. I think there's always things to improve. I think the guys are gelling together, considering that we're a first-year team and kind of that understanding of each other and how we play off each other. That takes a little bit of time, but I think Landon, Nate, and the whole coaching staff have done an amazing job to get these guys to understand that. And as we shared a little bit of the secret sauce, of the secret magic, I think is what we called it, of set plays and how we're working together. I think it's only going to get better, but it's going to take time. And teams who have played together for a long time have that benefit, and we don't. And I think teams who change a lot over the years, and I think there's been quite a few changes in Salt Lake as well. And I'm luckily good friends with Olave, and just knowing kind of the process that they go through. It was a challenging game for both sides, and I think could have gone either way. Luckily, it went well for us. but there's always room for improvement.
And hopefully, at the end, we came out with 3 points. Sea como sea, however we did it, we're not going to look back, not going to question things that already happened. But no, I think the team itself is in a good position, and I think people who tuned in last time, I think are going to tune in this weekend to see exactly how it's going to look in our backyard, because it is at the end our home soil, and it's still a home game at the end of the day, and we better defend it. Let me switch a little bit. I've been looking through the roster, and I know we have a lot of different nationalities. I was really excited to see if there was any Portuguese or Brazilian players coming on. I speak, eu falo português, não falo muito bom. That's as much as I have. But we're looking through some of your Instagram stories. We'd like to do our research. How was going to Brazil for the World Cup?
You went back. It was bittersweet, to be honest, because as most of our Argentinian friends will remind me, and our German friends as well, I landed in Brazil with my, at the time, girlfriend, future wife, a day before that Germany game. And my family, we do, big barbecue, big screen, watch the game together. And Brazilians are normally pretty happy, go, kind of run out. And that's why for me, if we get to that question, my favorite player ever is Ronaldinho, because of how he played and his approach to the game and his approach to life. I think it could have been better because he could have lasted longer, but to the game, I think it was great, right? It's like, it's still a game, and it's supposed to be enjoyed. You miss a chance and you still smile. And I think we lost that. And I think we as a Brazilian culture, and especially in our game, we've lost that. Everybody says about Neymar, but like, he only plays well when he's kind of angry and he's got a chip on his shoulder. He should play well when he's enjoying it from the beginning of the game. He shouldn't have to get tackled to get upset and then start playing well. So, but that goes into a bigger conversation. To answer your question about the World Cup, it was amazing. It was amazing to see the country kind of, in many ways, performing well. In many ways, they got, it was an abuse of power, and there was a ton of wasted money. And then to have that culminate in a very significant loss to Germany, and then I had the option to either go for the beginning, the opening game, or the final. I was originally going to the opening game. I played my bets, and I said, no, I want to go to the final because Brazil will be there. Obviously, we weren't. I've never been so German for 90 minutes as I was that day. Yeah. But it was painful. I wore my Brazil jersey to the game, and having all of the Argentinian fans all over Rio and kind of cheering, it was as painful as it could be. But I was glad that that Germany won. Let's just say it that way. But it was an amazing experience to have that World Cup in your country.
Yeah, no, Brazil, lost to the eventual champions is something good. I bring that up only because, I'm full-blooded Mexican, but if I wasn't, I'd choose to be Brazilian. I love Brazilian culture. I love, that's why I try to learn the language here and there. So hopefully we can get some lessons in, Ricardo.
Absolutely. Anytime.
I'd love to. I know how to say, that I'm not even gonna try. But definitely, man, it's one of those things where it's the culture of soccer, and I'm glad that we have people at SD Loyal that understand soccer to the core. A lot of the fan base and a lot of people in the States, grew into the sport. They're 35 years old and they saw, a Premier League match that captivated them. Now they're a fan. But I feel like, sometimes with people like us, we're born with it. We're like, it's literally in our DNA, and we understand it to a different degree. So I'm glad that we have that within the confines of San Diego Loyal.
But I will say this, well, I agree 100% with you. I think we also have to keep in mind that there is we also, like, I think a lot of times, because we feel like we've grown with the sport, we know more than others. And I think we have to keep in mind that all the sport has changed a ton over time. And I think allowing the people who are becoming fans now to feel like they know just as much or be part of that conversation, and I think it happens a lot that people who played or people who kind of grew up with it think like, you're a new fan, you don't get it. Like, that's not true. And that kind of brings people down, right? It's like, well, fine, then I'm not going to be a soccer fan. I'm going to go back to baseball because that's what I grew up with. And I think that's where we kind of missed the mark a little bit. And it's normal. It happens in every sport. I mean, I was never a baseball person. I married into a Patriots, Red Sox, Bruins, right, family, right. So I've learned how that works, but sometimes that impression of, let's respect the sport and respect the new people in the sport, and let's help them learn as well, because that's part of the growing process of our game in this country.
And that's a good perspective to have. I'm trying to teach Chiva over here the beauty of baseball. I'm pretty sure Sweet Caroline top to bottom at this point,
right?
And everything Boston baseball, and I guess there was a lot of celebrating at your household over the past couple of decades with the Patriots, but that's over now.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's been a challenge. So the only team that I guess absorbed from that was the Red Sox. As the Patriots coming to school here in San Diego, I was a Chargers fan until a few years ago, obviously, and now I kind of don't know where to go. It was too easy to go to the Patriots, and that's what I told them. It was like they just win every year, so I didn't want to be a bandwagon fan. I'm a huge hockey fan, so I was a huge Rangers fan in New York, and then the Red Sox. Nothing against the Padres, but when I first went to school here in San Diego, the school took you on a field trip when you first arrived as a newcomer, and they took us to a Padres game. And I think one person knowing nothing about the game, nobody teaching anything. It was a bunch of international students. So we sit up in the terrible seats, and I think one person hit the ball during the entire game in the first game that I went. It was horrible. And Petco Park has changed dramatically since then. This was 2002. So it's changed dramatically, right? And but my first experience with baseball was like, oh my God, this is just as bad as I thought it would be. So I really didn't connect with baseball until I met my wife and I started following the Red Sox. And now I actually kind of get it a little bit more, and I enjoy playoffs.
Let me sell you on this, man. I also am a former San Diego Charger fan. That team doesn't exist anymore, so I can't be a fan of it.
Right.
I did my research, and I landed on the Eagles the year before that they won the Super Bowl. And look, they had Darren Sproles forever. They're a team that's fun to watch. They are a team that has bitter and angry fans. Something that I, as a former Charger fan, am a little bitter at the NFL. So there's that. They have fun at games, and I mean, why not? They hadn't won a Super Bowl before, so I mean, they have one now. They're not the best, so I mean,
my challenge with any team from Philly is I lived in New York for 10 years, and you just don't do that.
All right, I'll give you that.
I'm not even gonna try to sell you on the Rams because we overpay our quarterback too much.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning towards probably Green Bay. I like the concept, and I was a huge Garoppolo fan. I thought they should have never traded him because we knew Brady was on the way out, and then I would have become a Patriots fan. So I also have a little thing for the 49ers. So that's where I am, probably between Green Bay and 49ers.
There is a QB that is really talented. It's up and coming, Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. And that team is growing pretty well. So maybe you should take a look at that team as well.
Bills are interesting. Again, New York, it's tough.
Come on now.
Yeah.
But I think we'll definitely have you on for when we have fantasy football talk. I don't know if you play fantasy football, Ricardo.
I do. I've been the commissioner for my league for the past 5 years. So yeah.
If there is a San Diego Loyal office or corporate guys league, save a spot for us because we will clean house. Just letting you guys know.
Well, then you're not invited.
You know nothing about football.
Football. Right. I mean, yeah. But it's honestly been one of the things that has been where am I? There went. Yeah,
gone.
Yeah, it's gone forever.
I did want to ask. I mean, I know you're pretty like the team is pretty active on Twitter with the fans, and I mean, I don't know if you know Travis. I'm pretty sure you do. He's
Yep.
pretty talented artist, and he's actually made some pretty cool loyalized Premier League team logos,
I saw you got your Sao Paulo one.
and then
I
like other
did.
teams. So I don't know
Did
if
you
you've seen them,
did
but
you get a copy of them?
I did. I did. I have.
nice.
I wish I had my water bottle, but yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, so that's why I didn't appreciate your Chelsea or
Oh,
Thank
Man
you for your
United.
time, Ricardo. We'll go.
Hey, there's no reason to hate on Arsenal right now. We hate ourselves enough.
True.
But it's been a rough few years. But I think we've hit bottom. Now it can only go up from here. Yeah, so Travis is amazing. I love the work that he has done and the work that those guys are doing. I'm excited to see some of the stuff that we'll be able to put up for the locals in the stadium for Sunday, and welcome anyone else who from groups that are starting to build up. We want to keep like the conversation working together. But if there's some things that people want to put up, we're happy to make it work for everybody.
That's great, man. And again,
Yeah.
you guys are listening to everybody and taking us into consideration, and that's something that's huge. I don't think people realize that. It's a professional team that's really have their ear to the ground when it comes to community and what we want to see, what they want to see. And it's really important to keep that avenue open. And as pretty much some of the founding members of this institution, it's important to lay that groundwork right now, because that's going to be part of the legacy. So speaking of legacy, what do you hope your personal legacy will be, and the loyal, like I said, what do you want the Ricardo Campos stamp to be?
Couple of different avenues, but I think the most important thing is to make sure that we represent the community, that the community is proud of this team, right? Like it's recognition, right? When somebody sees the hat you're wearing SD on it, they know what that is, and that they're proud of it, right? I think that's something that every community needs, especially ones that had roller coasters. When you talked about, recently something is happening in soccer here for a long freaking time, right? Like the youth movement here is incredible, and we've developed so many players. We just haven't had the consistent top of the pyramid here, and now we do. And so having something that the community here really feels like connects with them and is proud of them, that to me is what, not necessarily what my legacy is, but what I hope to have an impression, a little bit of an impact on the club for a lasting impression over time. If that, yeah.
I love it. Maybe we can have a section named after you at some point in the future stadium.
So going back to the preparations I mean, we did receive the email for media credentials for the game, and I know there's no field access. So I was just wondering if we were to get them, because I know they're limited. Where is media going to be located in the game?
So media will be specifically placed in the south seats. So you're going to come into the southwest corner. You're going to be, temperature checked, symptoms, ID, make sure that only people who are allowed in the list, no last minute ads, and then come in, be escorted to the seats, and you have to stay within your seat for the duration of the game, unless obviously you have to go to the restroom. But keeping everybody, separated and safe, and then also staying away from any contact with the players.
Definitely love it. Yeah, because we did see, I forget which USL team had field access seats for fans. While some player was taking a throw in, and we're doing all these preparations, and here in San Diego, I think we've been doing a great job, not just Loyal, but the Padres who are having their summer camp at Petco. In general, everybody's taking the precautions, and then you see that in another part of the league, and it's a little disheartening to see. If we really want this season, if you want to see the full season, we can't be. We have to be smarter than that. But I think you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, right, to bring in the game back on, and it's so different to not have fans. And I think it's even harder for the teams who are in that mix of allowing some fans because their county allows so. Because the U.S. is so big that you have this is impacting so differently everywhere. So I think it's easy for us because we had a meeting yesterday about, hey, these are the things we learned this weekend. These are the things to improve on. And I think first game is always hard, and then things are just going to improve from here on how we do this process.
I love it. Yes, and we're definitely looking forward to everything and any news and any developments as far as, who's going to be able to come in, where, if there is ever eventually some kind of watch parties, even if it's not at the stadium, as long as it's safe and following the guidelines, it's going to be great. And one last question, Ricardo, to take us home. Again, appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything you're putting into the team and to the city, man. Because here in the city, those who look out for the city, don't forget it, man. Like we're loyal, 100%. Like desde arriba hasta abajo, all the vatos locos, and everybody is on the same page, man. But my last question is one I like to ask is, if you can, and it seems like you've been to a couple games. Again, looking through your Instagram story, good games. If you can have a golden ticket to a match, soccer game, football game, any type of sporting event that you can go in the past, can't really say future, but if there was one sporting event that you would like to have witnessed in person, what game would you go to?
So the game that had the most impact in my life was World Cup Final 1994. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, like I didn't even think it was obviously here, right? So I think I'd probably go back there, just because that year to me with, I'm a big F1 fan, and Senna passing away and Brazil winning the World Cup. And that to me was significant. And I think I'd go back there also because of the roller coaster that game was. So yeah, I think that's probably where I would go.
I think that's a good one. And I think any World Cup with your team, not that Mexicans know anything about that, would be a great game to go to. But we definitely want to say thank you, Ricardo, for coming on. I don't know why everybody at the office and even the team is into F1 racing. I think we're going to have to do our research on that. I don't even know where to start. I hear Andrew, the owner, Eric Avila. Yeah.
So here's where you start. There is a Senna documentary on Netflix.
I'm typing that in right now.
Take time, watch that. I think it's on Netflix or Amazon. I think it's on Netflix. Senna. Just watch that. He, for me, is like all-time best, like athlete, like somebody who had drive, who, like, yeah, just watch that, and then we can have a conversation on F1, and I think you'll get the gist of it.
I just saved it onto the Netflix. Definitely check out Ricardo and everything he is doing with the Loyal. Thank you for your time, man. If you want to stick around, we'll just close it out with a little bit of little wrap up at the end. But thank you for joining us, man. Go Loyal, man.
Thank you guys. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. Thank you for having me and helping us get some exposure out there. You guys are awesome. Appreciate it.
Love it, man. Thank you, man. Ahora sí.